Well, I thought that Boker Tov, sorry, I should say hello. Yeah, should say hello. I thought that it might be interesting just to look at a variety of questions that I've been asked over the years about Yom Kippur instead of one specific topic. And people have asked me, they ask all rabbis all different kinds of questions. Yeah, yeah, only a few days. Repent the day before it. Anyhow. Um, so the first question is, how come that the 10th of Tishri is a day appropriate on which to atone for one's sins? What makes the 10th of Tishri more appropriate as a day of Kapara than in any other day of the year? The answer is not in the Torah exactly, although it's based on what goes on in the Torah. The Midrash explains that after the golden calf, Moses came down with the second set of tablets. Now, what was going on when he came down with the second set of tablets? In fact, when did he come down? He came down on the 10th of Tishri. He came down on the day that was to become Yom Kippur. What were the people doing? I wonder if it's ever occurred to you. Yeah, the first time he came down, they were all dancing around. Not all, the majority of them, the Levium were. Of course, many of the rest were dancing around, singing and dancing around this golden calf. What were they doing the second time he came down? Watching the telly? Probably not. They were actually atoning. They were praying. They were asking for forgiveness. And the Midrash says since then it became, and actually what was the response to their forgiveness, the response to their prayers, the response to Moshe was, Salachti Kivarecha. I accept, and God says, yes, I accept their atonement. Or it actually says to Moses, I accept your prayers on their behalf. But the fact is, the 10th of Tishri from that day became a very good day on which to atone for one's sins. And it was established all time from then. Another question. How many times do we say vidui on Yom Kippur? This is an interactive program. It's actually 8. We say once mincha before Yom Kippur, then we say twice at Shachrit, during Shachrit and the repetition, twice at twice at Kol Nidre. Why? No, we don't. Yes, we do. Of course we can. Twice at Kol Nidre, twice at Shachrit, twice at Musaf. How many we got? Twice at Mincha, and one kind of once really at Nila. So that is 9. Why do we say? Well, it's not 9 times. It's one at the beginning and one at the end. It's got to be an even number. Kol Nidre, Shachrit, Musaf, Mincha is 8, and the other 2, one Erev Mincha, Erev Yom Kippur, and one at Nila. So it's 10 times we say now then. So the question is, why do we say Vidui Erev Yom Kippur? Why do we come to shul, most of us, or some of us, and daven mincha and say Vidui? Don't repeat, Chazan doesn't say Vidui again, but nevertheless, we say it for the first time, all this all this business, we say mincha before Yom Kippur. Why? Well, it's very interesting actually. The Chachamim tell us that there is a concern that people might eat and drink very well. Now you know, we'll come to that in a second. There's a mitzvah to eat and drink before Yom Kippur. The day before, the meal before Yom Kippur It's actually a positive mitzvah to eat and drink and enjoy yourself. So there is a possibility that you would be so shikah that you wouldn't say vidui properly at all. So we say vidui once, so at least once before Yom Tov actually starts, we say vidui before we eat in order to make sure we've said it properly. Another reason, which is brought by the Rambam, is that we say vidui before Yom Kippur in case that meal that we eat after we've said vidui, we might choke and die. And if we were to choke on what we've eaten just before Yom Kippur, we wouldn't have said vidui at all before we die. So we say vidui erev Yom Kippur too. Now, why is it a mitzvah then to eat a big meal before Yom Kippur? This actually is really a sheer in its own. And I toyed with the idea of using this as my subject today. It's a very interesting, it's a big subject, really. Why it is a mitzvah to have a big meal before Yom Kippur. Now, the Torah says that the problem is there is it seems to be almost contradictory what the date is of Yom Kippur. In one place, the Torah says, "V'tisha b'erev me'erev ad erev." On the 9th, you have to keep a Yom Kippur. And the other place, it says, "B'asol HaChodesh," on the 10th of the month. So are we supposed to fast for 2 days or only 1 day? The Chachamim, well, it's not 2 days actually, because the Chachamim say, look, you can't ask people to fast for 2 days. Because if you're going to be asked to fast for 2 days, then sorry. Yeah. Yeah, what you read is correct, but it needs a tiny bit of explanation. As I've just said, the Torah seems to be ambiguous about whether. Now, that's not the same as what you're talking about, because what you're talking about is Yom Tov Sheni Yishel Galiot. That is, why do we have 2 days of Yom Tov outside of Israel? And if we have to have 2 days of Yom Tov outside of Israel, you would say we should have 2 days of Yom Kippur outside of Israel. There should be 2 days of fasting. It's for that reason the Chachamim said, well, you can't possibly. The thing is that since the Torah is a bit ambiguous about whether it should be 1 or 2 days for a day of atonement, the Chachamim said you have to eat Erev Yom Kippur, and eating Erev Yom Kippur, well, eating that meal, making a real Yom Tov meal, is equivalent to as if you had fasted for 2 days. Now, how does that come about? Well, first of all, they suggest it's like a king. The king had a son, and for some reason, the son was going to have to fast. What would the king do before the fast? Make sure so his son had a jolly good meal. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, you're going to fast for a day, you make sure you have a really good meal the day before you fast. Another idea, which I think is rather nice actually, is that we should be, we rejoice, we have this meal as a rejoicing because we are really glad that we have given the opportunity to atone for our sins. And this Yom Tov meal, Erev Yom Tov, is a kind of a rejoicing in itself for the fact God gives us the opportunity to come to him the next day and to pray to be forgiven. And we know, of course, because if you look at there's a question people often ask, why do you have so many jolly tunes on Yom Kippur? If you think about it, it's rather odd. You'd expect it's a day of atonement, everything's down and it's down, all this. I've sinned. I've been a naughty boy. Please forgive. Why? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But the idea is, and it's related to what I've just said. It makes sense in the idea that when we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Yom Kippur, it's not like going to a court of law. When you go to a court of law, you really don't know what the outcome is going to be. You may be totally convinced that you're innocent, but we know that sadly there are occasions when innocent people still go to jail. On the other hand, you may know that you're guilty, but on the other hand, you're lucky enough, as it were, to get off with it. We don't know, but Yom Kippur is completely different. We know that if we fast, if we atone genuinely, if we are genuinely sorry for what we've done, then we know that Ishmael will forgive us. So all of those people, nearly said we, all those people who know for 100% sure that they are atoning with all their hearts on Yom Kippur, and also know with 100% sure that they will be forgiven. That's why we have this big meal Erev Yom Tov. There is an idea that the Gemara talks, and I'm sure, I don't know if it's true. We've got that here. I don't know, you might know the answer. You're a doctor, aren't you? Seem to remember? You would, yeah. Um, that the fasting Erev Yom Kippur makes the fasting on Yom Kippur harder. Sorry, the eating on Erev Yom Kippur makes the fasting on Yom. Is that true? That if you have a very big meal before the fast is harder to endure. No medical evidence for it. There you are. All right, but the Chachamim seem to think that was the case. The last idea I found, which I like very, very much, is from Rabbi Shimshon Hirsch. He says, look, you have to understand, we are coming on Yom Kippur and we're fasting, we're abstaining from various things that are pleasurable. And that's how we think we serve God. And that's what we do on Yom Kippur. But we have to know that, and the other way of serving God, the way I like to serve Him, is Bet Hashem b'simcha. Serve God in happiness. By eating Erev Yom Kippur, you are also you are performing a mitzvah. So if it's done with the right attitude, the right frame of mind, that is also serving God. And that's to teach us that lesson. How much time? Seriously, I've got so many questions I could do. I'm not another 5. Um, why do we wear white on Yom Kippur? Why do we put a talit on a Kol Nidrei? Now, wearing a talit in the evening is something we don't do. Why not? Because the mitzvah of tzitzit only applies during the day. You shall see the tzitzit, and seeing them reminds you of mitzvah. Since it's pitch black in the night time, you don't see tzitzit, so we don't wear them at night. So what do you put on a talit at night? You put a talit at night on Yom Kippur, or Nidra night, because its primary color is white. And we are supposed to dress in white on Yom Kippur because we resemble angels. There are other things that angels don't eat. We don't eat. We don't drink. We don't drink. Don't have marital relations. We don't have marital relations. There are things that we try to emulate angels. That's why we wear white on Yom Kippur. Another reason is that people dress in a kittel. What is a kittel? It's very interesting, actually, because I had a little discussion this year with my friend, cousin, and we actually with Rabbi Lister as well. What is a kittel supposed to be? Oh, come on. It's tachrichim. Tachrichim are funeral shrouds. Now, interestingly, I mean, the question arose because I saw the cousin and also Rabbi Lister. In fact, most people, their kittel does right the way up to the bottom. It's got buttons right the way down to the bottom. it's not real tachrichim. My kittles always only do up to here. I have to put it on over my head. That's real tachrichim. That's real funeral shrouds. Right? We wear a tachrichim because we are preparing, if God forbid, the decree goes the wrong way, so we're dressed for it, as you know. Right? One thing I've never quite worked out, and I'm not going to do it now, unless somebody's got an answer for that, is why people wear kittel at a Seder. And it's always seemed a bit puzzling to me. I think the only reason I come up with it is to keep your suit clean. Yes, well, they can understand that because that is a mini Yom Kippur. That's why they do. They fast as well on the day, and the from kids will say vidui at mincha before they get married as well. So it's a mini Yom. I can understand. I haven't really come across with a reason why we should wear a kittel at the Seder. You know, it's a bit strange. There is a pasuk. If from Isaiah, if your sins shall be as red as scarlet, they will turn to white as snow. This idea comes from the sending out the goat to Azazel, Yom Kippur, and there was a scarlet cord tied onto the gates of the Beit HaMikdash, of those in the earliest times, somewhere by the Mishkan. Thank you. And that if God had forgiven everybody's sins, that scarlet cord would turn to white. So it reminds us of that. Another reason we wear a talit at night time in Yom Kippur is because there is a beautiful midrash that Chazan particularly will appreciate when Moses says to God, how are the people supposed to atone? What is the way? What's the formula? And God says that he should God wrapped himself in a talit like a chazan. And he said they should do this and say, Shem Hashem Karachim. And it reminds us of that as well. Last one. Why do we say Kol Nidre 3 times? Well, the first reason, it's not preference, but a reason is for latecomers. And I remember, and it's quite serious. If somebody had not heard it the first time, then he came late, then he got an opportunity to hear it. And I actually remember once in Kenton, in one of the services I was davening in, they wouldn't let some fellow in, and he went berserk. And he was right, of course. He was absolutely right. Because people should come in as soon as they get there. If you only hear it once, you only hear it once. But at least you've heard it. But the reason we repeat it is for latecomers. Another reason is because it's a very important figure, and you know that things that are important. Shem Hashem Kurach in front of the ark, we say 3 times. There are things we say 3 times that gives them chashivut, it gives them extra importance. All official proclamations were made 3 times to make sure everybody could hear them as well. It's like approaching a king. You come to the king a bit tentatively, and then you get a bit more confidence, and then you have complete confidence. And that's also the reason why many chazanim, not every single one, as we know, but many chazanim say the first Kol Nidrei, and then the second one louder, and the third one in full voice. That's exactly like approaching the king instead of gaining in confidence. So we need to say it. As I say, there's so many more things I want to go that more.
Wow. Right, a good preparation for Yom Kippur. Thank you. No one's got anything to say. Okay. Just to say, everyone wish for everyone Gemar Chatima Tova. I hope that Yom Kippur goes okay for you. Next Tuesday there will be a breakfast and learn. Avi is speaking, and one or two of us may not be here, but there will be breakfast on next Tuesday. Yeah, yes, no, yes, right. Yeah. And in 2 weeks' time, Hollywood took off where there's no breakfast to learn. But then we start in full back to normal the Tuesday after Simchat Torah on that Tuesday, the 29th of October. So for those who will be here next week, enjoy Avi speaking, and it will be on YouTube. So those of us who are not there will be able to catch up with it afterwards. Okay, I'll just turn this off now, and I'll say the bracha.